Good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Welcome in tonight to our Saturday night show where we are going on the hunt tonight with my buddy, Mr. Rob Effler of North Carolina Investigates. You guys are in for the biggest treat. We have actually done some conferences and festivals and things like that together as far as Bigfoot festivals go. And I love hanging out with his whole team. North Carolina Investigates. Those guys are the best. And let me tell you, they've had some wild encounters out in the woods. And we're going to hear about some of those tonight, y'all. And so please buckle up, get ready, and get ready to go down this Bigfoot rabbit hole, a Bigfoot hole tonight with us here on the Cryptid Huntress channel. I'm super excited to have you guys here with us tonight. If you guys missed it, our Thursday night show was absolutely fantastic. We had Edie Testerman here, and we looked into the missing colony of Roanoke, which is in North Carolina, by the way. I might be asking Rob about what he thinks about the lost colony of Roanoke tonight. Who knows? We looked into that. That was a remote viewing target that I was tasked with a while back, and we brought it in because of the werewolf angle. Okay, some people claim that they think werewolves were involved with that missing colony, even a reptilian devil that was known to inhabit that island, and also Wendigos. Okay, so I know it sounds wild, but we went deep into that. That was one of the best shows. All the shows are the best shows, y'all. Okay, but that was a really great one. If y'all missed that on Thursday, so thank you for being there with us that night. Okay, y'all. Well, if y'all would like to follow along, check out the archives of my shows and everything, go over to my website, thecryptidhuntress.com. You can find all the shows there, my calendar of events, my social media links, all that is all there, including my Patreon link as well if you guys would like to become a member of that. And my shop is called War Woman Goods. That's over on Etsy. You can find all that over on my website. I am booked and ready to go to the Full Disclosure Now conference in St. Petersburg, Florida. That's coming up July the 15th through the 18th. If you guys are coming to that, please use my discount code. This code is still good for tickets over here. If you're listening on podcasts, please go over to my website and check out that discount code. Go to my website or go to my YouTube channel and watch the video. And it is right there. And so thank you to everybody who's coming out to see me. I love doing these events in person where I get to meet you guys. And I'm going to do a really fantastic presentation down there as well. And we're going to cover a lot of the stuff we talk about on the channel, of course. So I'll see y'all in Florida. Okay. All right. Well, let's get to our show tonight, y'all. Okay. Because we've got Rob here in the studio, and I don't want to waste a whole lot of time. Rob Effler is from Western North Carolina. In 2023, he started North Carolina Investigates with his co-founder, George Lunsford. Prior to that, in 2007, he was founder of GoDark Paranormal Investigations. In 2012, he started to receive reports of Sasquatch sightings in his area of North Carolina. And little did he know, y'all, he was going to have at least 5 Bigfoot sightings after that of his own. And if you guys want to get in touch with him, we'll give out his email address in the show today. If you've got any kind of cryptid sighting or Bigfoot sighting, y'all send them over to North Carolina Investigates. You guys can find them on their YouTube channel, North Carolina Investigates NCI, and also on Channel 12. Let me pull this up so I don't get it wrong. Channel 12 TV network, where I just went on there with them about a couple weeks ago on a Friday night live over at Channel 12 TV Network. So please help me welcome to the show, Mr. Rob Effler. What's up, Rob?
Hey, Jessica. How you doing, dear?
I'm doing excellent. I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Cryptid Hunters channel.
I am absolutely tickled to death to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Man, I have so much fun hanging out with you and all your team. All those guys. Y'all are a hoot to hang out with. And I've gone out in the field with just Harley, of course. But you guys are a lot of fun. We've started doing a circuit of conferences together. Okay. So I feel like I'm getting to know y'all pretty good.
Yeah, we enjoy doing those conferences with you.
Oh yeah. Let me show the audience real quick a picture. This is from the Georgia Bigfoot conference this past May, I believe, and that's part of the team right there. Harley and Jerry. Y'all know Jerry. Jerry came on the show a couple weeks ago, about a month ago actually, and we talked about feral people. And we got Tim and yourself up there, and George Lunsford. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, you guys make up North Carolina Investigates, and you founded that with George Lunsford. Tell the audience a little bit about NCI and what you guys do.
Well, like you said, in 2023, George and I founded North Carolina Investigates. George and I, prior to 2023, had been talking to one another for probably a year and a half on the internet. And we finally met in person, and it was like lightning in a bottle. We had when we met in 15 minutes, it was just exactly like we had been neighbors, friends, cousins our whole entire life. And it just started to be, like I said, lightning in a bottle. We've had some ups, we've had some downs. We started out just doing a regular podcast on StreamYard and YouTube, and first one thing and the other. And our first producer was Eric Couillard. He was a good friend of George. He was also a Navy veteran, and Eric had stage 4 cancer, and he finally lost that battle. And we were without a producer at the time, and George got a phone call one day, and it was from Rockin' Randy at WROK out there in Las Vegas, Nevada. And then after we met up with Randy, it was lightning in a bottle again. And we just took off and running, and we try to keep our spirit with us at all times. He never did get to see the Bigfoot that he was wanting to see.
No.
And we sort of, our heart's sort of a little bit broken over that. We're still brokenhearted on account of we lost a brother, but he's with us every time we hit the woods. I mean, it's just like he's right there with us.
Well, I'm so sorry you lost your friend, and I know he'll be very proud of y'all today. And you're out there, y'all are putting yourselves out there a good bit. I love it. You're very active. You're very comfortable in front of a camera too, by the way. Okay, because I really enjoyed that Channel 12 show that we did together out there. But you know what? I know y'all have confidence because you guys are boots on the ground field researchers, and that makes a big difference when you're talking about Bigfoot. It helps to have some experience out in the woods, some boots on the ground stuff under your belt to get out there and speak. That's why I love what I do. I love sitting here talking about Bigfoot and Dogman and everything, because I've been doing it for so long, out in the field and just chasing monsters and stuff. So I know your buddy is looking down on you guys from heaven right now and super proud of you. And he's always there with you in spirit.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're a little bit different than most researchers. A lot of people, if I can find the words in order to put it to where it'll make sense. A lot of people tries to make it more dramatic and more scientific than what it actually is. If we find it, we'll show it to you. If we run into a situation where nothing happens, we're going to tell it. We're not going to fabricate anything. We're not going to try to, make it any more than what it actually is.
Oh yeah. you call it like you see it, and I can appreciate that.
Exactly.
Big time. Oh yeah. I'm the same way, trying to make it too dramatic. I don't talk about my research as much, as I ask other people about their research, and my teams are actually pretty private. Except for one of my teams is kind of public, but most of my teams, I'm on 4 different teams actually. And three of them are private. And then that one team that goes out to the meadow, we talk about our research, and some of the guys, people go on interviews and stuff, but I have to really, really butter people up. They're on my teams to come on my show sometimes. Okay. Cause they don't want to be public. They don't like talking about it publicly and stuff. So, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I think a lot of researchers are like that, not and maybe it's because of from them being in it for so long. And I know when I first got into Bigfooting, it was not that cool to speak about it publicly because everybody thought we were crazy. Okay. And that was kind of how that's their mindset, I think. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, didn't you start off doing paranormal research before you started doing Bigfooting?
I did. In 2007, I formed a team called GoDark Paranormal Investigations. We were, basically we stayed right here in Western North Carolina. We didn't venture out too far. We basically done local hauntings, graveyards, and etc. And then we had, a few team changes and this, that, and the other over the years. And in 2012, I started getting reports of Bigfoot here in Western North Carolina. And I was sitting there thinking, wait just a minute. Bigfoot in Western North Carolina? You've got to be bloody kidding me. I thought people were actually pulling my leg is what I thought they were doing. I got to researching a little bit, got to looking on the internet, BFRO and a few other places. And lo and behold, one of the first sightings that popped up was exactly 14 miles from my house on the Blue Ridge Parkway. So, being curious as I am, I said, well, heck with it. I'm going to go up there and take a look. Granted, the evidence was long gone, weather had done took care of it and beat the footprints down and everything else. And I got really and truly looking at the woods in a whole entire different light. And then in 2019, a buddy of mine who's a member of Bigfoot 911 team out of McDowell County, I was a member of that team at one point in time. He and I decided we was going to go do a recon mission. Well, we took his brother with us, and that's when I saw my first two.
Ooh, really?
And you talk about a life-changing event and getting bit by the bug.
The Bigfoot bug.
I have never in my whole entire life thought that on that particular day, something other was going to actually happen and we was going to get to see what we were looking for. What was basically looking for footprints, twist breaks, tree structures, anything that would constitute enough evidence to go back and do a nighttime investigation.
Mm-hmm.
To be quite honest, we were totally unprepared for that.
Really?
We didn't take a flashlight. We didn't have any radios. We didn't have no equipment other than this right here.
Cell phone? Oh, man. Well, that works.
That's all we had. That's all we had. And the only light that we had, as far as flashlights goes, was right there on the back.
Lord.
And you know good and well as I do, you can't see nothing with a flashlight on a cell phone. They're, just enough to keep you from getting tripped up and getting yourself killed in the woods.
Yeah.
And it was in November of 2019, right around about the 19th of November. We went into this one area and we was probably I'd say we was probably close to a mile and a half, maybe 3 mile max away from the truck. And we was just going along, not paying no attention. The leaf litter was real good and crunchy. And like I've said before, you could have heard a squirrel come through the woods at 200 yards, and it would sound like an elephant on kind of, the way the environment was in the woods. We wasn't really and truly expecting anything. It was kind of around about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we stopped at this one spot and seen the top of this pine tree broke out. Well, we knew the weather hadn't been bad for the past 2 weeks. So we was just basically standing there trying to figure out, where did the top of this tree go? And where we were at, it was steep as a horse's face on either side. I mean, it was kind of like a V, kind of like this. I mean, as slick as leaves was, there'd have been no way in the world, you could have made any progress doing anything. So I turned around and I looked at my buddy Brad and I said, where'd that tree go? Top of it. He said, I don't know. His brother Nick standing over there wondering the same thing. I just, where the sun was shining, you had a shadow line, and we were starting to get into the shadow line where we were at, because sun sets pretty early in November here in western North Carolina. Usually thing right around about 5 o'clock, it's just about plumb dark.
Oh yeah, especially in the hollers.
Oh yeah, I mean you get back and where we were at. Pardon my French, but we were in cell phone hell. I mean, cell phones useless, GPS was useless, and everything else. So I just happened to see something other glistening out of the corner of my eye, and I thought, okay, somebody's been up here in the woods hiking or something like that, and throw down a soda can or something like that. And I thought, maybe that's what that is, sun glistening off the can. Well, I just happened to look up, and it's about 150 yards out. I see something other about the size of anywhere between a 5 to an 8-year-old kid. Light blonde in color from the top of its head to the end of its toes. It takes off running. Oh. So I'm elbowing Brad, trying to get his attention, because I didn't know if he was looking or not, because I was staying focused on what I was seeing, trying to run a Rolodex of everything in my head, trying to get something other to match up. So it runs across the log, makes a head first dive into a laurel thicket, hits the ground just like a cat, don't make a sound. And I hollered at his brother Nick, and I said, did you see that? He said, I've seen part of it. He said, I've seen something other move, but I couldn't tell what it was. And I said, Brad, did you see that? And he said, yes, I did. So we're standing there scratching our head, trying to make for sure we're not crazy, that we wasn't seeing things. Because there's no way in God that this was somebody that in a suit out there in the woods trying to play a joke, because nobody knew where we were. Nobody knew the location. Nobody had any idea that we were taking off that day. Us three knew it. Nobody else did. So we knew it wasn't somebody, trying to play a joke. Well, about that time, I see something else move, and I get to looking in the same spot. It's light brown in color, 4 foot wide at the shoulders, and the only thing I can see is from the waist up. Wow. There was another one with it. It backs up against the oak tree that me and Brad and I both couldn't reach around. Both of us together couldn't reach around this oak. So it backs up against that oak, slides straight down in behind that log that the juvenile ran across. Mm-hmm. So we're standing there again, perplexed, had no idea, just flabbergasted. And I said, do you have your tree knocking stick? He said, sure. I said, well, let's do a tree knock and see what we can get. He said, okay. So he takes his stick out of his pack, takes about, 15 to 20 feet up the trail, finds a tree. So he hits the tree about 3 times, 85 yards up the hill, past where the juvenile goes into the laurel thicket. We get the tree knocked back. Well, we're excited by that time. we're just
This is your first
completely
time out.
totally. Yeah, I mean,
This is your first time ever Bigfooting.
Yeah, and he says, "Well, let's go see if we can't catch up with them." I said, "Brad, ain't no way." I said, "That's I said, you don't take one step forward and take 15 backwards, as slick as those leaves are." And I said, "Wait just a minute." I got to looking around at the environment where we was at, and I said, "We're in trouble." He said, "What do you mean we're in trouble?" I said, "We're in trouble." He said, "How do you figure?" I said, "Brad, we're in ambush zone." I said, "Don't you remember what your daddy told us?" He said, "Uh-oh." I said, "Yeah, uh-oh." I said, "Where there's one, we're automatically surrounded." He said, "Oh, crap. Now what are we going to do?" I said, "We need to live to fight another day." I said, "What we need to do." I said, "Let's go back to the truck." By then, the sun was already setting. Shadow line was arising quick. And it was a pretty good sized walk back to the truck. And like I said, the only thing we had was this right here for a flashlight.
Yeah. And the battery didn't die.
Luckily, we got back to the truck, and sadly, we didn't get a chance to go back in there to see if we couldn't take the rest of the team, because we had some other things going on, and it just got lost in the moment on events down the road. Well, I think it was 2021. I was with Bigfoot 911 again. We were on the backside of McDowell County, and we had 3 different teams in the woods. The first team consisted of 2 or 3 members. Second team consisted of Captain John Bruner and 1 or 2 members that he took with him, and the 2 oddball out was me and my wife. So we were team number 3 in the middle. So here we go. And here's another case of make sure you have flashlights that actually work in the woods.
Yeah, right. Multiples.
Oh, yeah. So I've got this headlamp on. We're about 2 miles back away from the truck, back away from base camp. And we get seeing something other moving. Well, I don't pay it too awful much attention, because at the time my headlights kind of quit. So I've got a pocket full of AA and AAA batteries in my pocket. The whole entire time I'm thinking, if I take this battery pack off the back of this light, I can insert batteries, because there's one of those that you plug into a cell phone charger and charge it up. So here I am, me and my wife's talking, and I'm standing there just not paying any attention whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm messing with my light. And all of a sudden, my wife hushes, which is odd. She's usually talking about something or they're either making fun of me or, got something else going on.
I met your wife. She's lovely. Michelle.
She is, but yeah, Michelle's an extremely talented lady, and I love her to death. But when we get to talking or something other, we'll pick on one another. Then all of a sudden, she just goes stone quiet.
You knew something was
And
wrong.
I stopped for a minute. I'm thinking, wait just a minute. He's hushed. Something's not right. She said, "I need you to do me a favor." And she's about 25 feet off to my right. I'm still standing there, like I said, just messing with my headlamp.
Yeah.
And she says, "Turn that light off." I said, "Well, okay, if I turn my light off," I said, "I can't see." She said, "We've got just enough light to make out the trees. You can't tell colors or nothing, but you can make out pine trees from the other trees. I said, okay. I said, what's the matter? She said, come here, man. I said, where are you? Because my eyes hadn't adjusted to the dark yet. She said, I'm about 25 feet to your right. She said, there's nothing right there that's going to cause you to trip. Follow my voice. So I get down there where she's at. She said, look about 75 yards out and tell me what you see. So I go look and see. My eyes finally adjust, and I get looking out through there, and I said, oh, holy crap. She said, what is that? I said, do you want me to tell you the truth? I said, or do you want me to lie? She said, you better be telling me the truth. She said, you're the only one with a pistol. I said, yeah. I said, you forgot yours in the truck. I said, right there he stands. Lo and behold, 9.5 foot tall, because the wall in the area was about 6 foot tall. I'm 6'1", and this thing stood about 3.5 feet over top of the lawn.
So 9 feet tall?
9.5 feet tall.
Wow.
4 foot wide at the shoulders. Looked like a 4x8 sheet of plywood standing there with a head stuck on it.
Oh my gosh. That's huge.
Oh yeah, he was a big boy. We got verification on how big he was a little bit later on when we got back to base camp. Team number 1 that had done and run into him, we didn't know because we didn't have a radio. We didn't have a cell phone. They didn't have enough radios to go around. And so we were basically, like I said, the odd man out. So he starts coming towards us. And I'm like, uh-oh. She said, what's he doing? I said, he's coming towards us. So I go reaching for my pistol.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to shoot him, of course.
But just in case.
I was just going to fire around in the air to get him, get him to turn. Because I had no idea whether he was mad or what. Because the only thing I could see was just a black outline. That's all I could see.
Man, I mean, almost 10 foot tall Bigfoot charging at you is not a good feeling if it were to charge at you.
Oh no! At that distance, if he'd have wanted us, we'd have done been got. I wouldn't be here today to tell the tale.
No.
So he stops when he sees me reaching for my pistol. Mm-hmm. She said, what's he doing? I said, he knows what I'm reaching for. So I just let my hand hover next to my pistol. And he turns, which would be to my left, to his right. And he goes walking off. She said, where's he going? I said, right up there. I said, on top of that ridge. I said, there's a big white oak grove up there. I said, woods are full of white oak acorns. I said, when he goes to the top of that ridge, I said, if he goes right-handed, like I think that's where he's going, I said, he's going home. She said, where's home? I said, because she wasn't, too knowledgeable of the area. I'd been in there before. Mm-hmm. And I sort of knew which way he is going. I said, if he falls off right-handed, off the backside of that ridge, I said, there's a whole big rock cliff back over in there. And I said, I'm pretty well sure there's a cave system back in there. And if he gets up there next to those caves, I said, let him go. I said, don't even pursue him. I said, because if he gets up through there, I said, I don't know. I said, if we've got anybody behind us, I don't know if we've got anybody below us. I said, I have no idea where team number 1's at. I have no idea where team number 2's at.
Oh, no.
I said, let's get out of here and go back to the truck. She said, okay. She said, I'll agree with that. So we get back to the truck. Team number 1, they're all giddy. They're all just downright excited. I'm just standing there not saying a word, not saying one single solitary word. Captain looks at me and he said, well, we had a productive evening. I said, you did? He said, yeah. He said, we found a footprint. I said, okay. I said, what did you find? He said, it's 21 inches long. He said, and 8 inches wide.
Dang. That's huge.
I said, okay. I said,
wide?
21 inches long by 8.5 inches wide.
Good Lord. That is really big.
That was a big boy.
About the size of a
And I
10
said,
foot tall Bigfoot footprint.
oh, yeah.
They must have flushed
So,
it out toward y'all or something.
unbeknownst to us, they did. Because I asked him where he was at, and he said, well, we was on the backside of that wildlife field. I said, you was 1.5 miles. I said, off to my right. He said, yeah, it was. I said, did you see it? He said, yeah. The other guy that was with John is 6'6". He weighs 310 pounds, all muscle. I think I can't remember if he was Navy or if he was Army. I can't remember. I know he was in the military.
That's a big difference. I'm just kidding.
And
Military
AJ
guy.
is big.
Sounds like
AJ
he's
is
a
a
rugby player.
big old boy.
Yeah.
And this thing stood 2.5 feet taller than AJ. And AJ's 6'6". They saw it bust through the bushes and take off to the left, which unbeknownst to them, that's where we were at, in the middle. So I asked him, I said, so he was about 9.5 feet tall. He said, yes, well, I just go to horse life. He said, what's funny? I said, John, you don't understand, realize. I said, you run that big boy over top of me, don't you? He said, did you get any pictures? I said, did you? He said, no. I said, I didn't either. I said, I tried to get video. I said, it was dark in the woods. My camera would not pick him up. He said, you're kidding. I said, no. I said, I even used a flash, flipped it over on standard photo, still couldn't get nothing.
Really?
Well, he said, I'm going to go back. He said, in the morning, he said, I'm going to cache that print because they didn't have no casting material with them then. As far as I know, I think John Bruner has still got that print. If he don't have it, AJ, the old boy at 6'6", I think he has possession of it.
They got the
Humongous.
cast. That's
Humongous
fantastic.
print.
And so you and your wife
They-
actually saw it. They encountered it, flushed it y'all's way, found the print, but you guys actually saw it too with your own eyes.
Oh yeah.
And y'all flushed it out the other direction basically to get it out of there so it didn't come towards y'all. That's fantastic. This is in what part of North Carolina were y'all in? You're in North Carolina, right? You guys are in the western part of North Carolina?
Yes, ma'am. That's where we were at in Western North Carolina on
Blue
on
Ridge.
the first two that I saw. That's where I was at, and that one that I just got through telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
Without giving away the location.
Yeah, don't give your location away. I never do that. I was just wondering what part
It
of
was
North
about
Carolina.
15. It was about 15 miles, give or take, through the woods where we saw the other one.
I'll be. Lots of Bigfoots up there. Lots of Bigfoots.
Oh yeah. To be quite honest, when I first started doing this, if you'd have asked me, let's just say in the year 2000, if you'd said anything about Bigfoot back then, I'd looked at you and thought you was crazy. I'd have looked at you dead in the eye and said, you're talking about Bluff Creek. You're talking about down there in Arkansas at the at Boggy Creek.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Himalayas, the Yeti. There's no such thing as that around here. I would have, at that moment in time, back then, I'm not going to lie, I would have made all kinds of manner of fun out of somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm the one being made fun of because I chase these things through the woods, which if anybody wants to make fun, let them go ahead. I mean, I don't care.
Exactly.
I've seen them. I know for a fact they exist. I know for a fact they are real. As far as what they are, in my opinion, from what I've encountered, what I've seen, what I've witnessed, I think it's a flesh and blood species all to its own that is probably a throwback from the Stone Age.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, I get all kinds of opinions all the time. People's got all kinds of theories, stories, and I mean, if somebody says something other, I'm not going to tell you that you didn't. I may look at you a little bit funny and go, until I witness that, it's kind of
I think
hard for me to
yeah, you looked at
swallow.
me a little funny. I bet you looked at me funny before. I didn't notice though. I'm just kidding. No, I, but see, here's the thing. I admit I'm a little crazy, Rob. Okay, I'm a little crazy, but I have experienced some weird paranormal, supernatural stuff when it comes to Bigfoot, and as far as it being, I believe they are definitely flesh and blood, flesh and bone creatures, but I think that they're able to like access things like portals, like Earth's natural portals and things. I think, that's what I think. Um, and I know like
They
when
might can.
yeah, I think they can.
I'm not going to sit here and say that they
Yeah.
don't. I'm not going to sit here and say that they do. I'm just leaving that door of possibility
Yes.
open because, to be quite honest, I would love more than anything to witness that. I
Oh yeah.
seriously would. I'd love to be able to stand there and witness that. Greg Ogles was talking about the portal they ran into up there in the LBL, and I was just flabbergasted. I was like, that has to be the coolest thing ever to see.
Oh man. Yeah, we have one on video with my team out in an undisclosed location as well. We call it the Meadow, and we have a video of sending people into it, and they disappeared. Their heat signatures disappeared, and they came back out and they reappeared. It's really interesting. Really,
Mm-hmm.
really cool. Very dangerous stuff too. Don't ever walk in a portal if you don't have to. Okay, I don't recommend it. Um, but I love how you have an open mind about it. That's an important part of being a researcher and investigator, just having an open mind about stuff, and not discounting what everybody experiences, or because it could happen. I mean, I look forward to seeing a dog man. Well, I think I may have seen a dog man, actually. I think I saw two of them leaving Alabama, actually, about a month ago.
Yeah, I remember you
Yeah.
telling about that, and I'd love to see one myself. The closest I've ever come to a dog man, uh, it was me and George, my wife, and Harley. We were in East Tennessee. And that's where George saw his first Bigfoot over on the exact same day. The Dogman print that we saw, I, we couldn't have been over 20 minutes behind it. He was in front of us. The print was still filling up full of water. The weather was extremely nasty. It was snowing 1 minute, sleeting the next, raining the next minute. Sun had come out for maybe 6 seconds, then I mean, the weather was
Oh, sounds
extremely
love.
nasty.
Sounds lovely. Wait, can we like one moment before you go further. I want to take a quick commercial break and thank Kent Baxter for that super sticker. Thank you so much, Kent. He says I nominate this show for best YouTube show of the year. Oh my gosh, thank you. Yes, me too. I nominate me for the best show. I'm just kidding. I appreciate that so much. Thank you, Kent. Um, is this location that you're talking about? Is this the one where you said Harley was there too? Is that the one that Harley took y'all to, where the cemetery is? Is that where y'all were?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the one that I've been to. Okay, that's the one that I got to
Uh-huh.
go to. That place is full of activity. Like, it's almost out of control, the amount of activity was out there. Bigfoot. I didn't even like, I'm just going to say, I didn't like going out in the woods by myself. I'm not going to tell you why I have to go out in the woods by myself. Okay, but I didn't like wandering far from the group, let's just say, when I was out there, because there was something, it's right there, that cemetery, which is already creepy, creep factor on 100. But it's everything that I felt like we were all being watched, and I'm used to feeling like I'm being watched, but this was intense. It was very intense. Us being out there, feeling watched. I mean, there was definitely something surrounding us that whole weekend, for sure.
I think part of that feeling of being watched, and I may have brought this to your attention in the past, and I know good and well if you've seen what I'm fixing to tell you. You remember that one particular spot that was outside the graveyard?
Yeah, yes, that's Harley just entered the chat, by the way. Hey, Harley. I was, yes, we were talking about that that one grave site. And to the
Mhm.
audience, for the audience, I don't have pictures. I didn't want to bring pictures on and stuff, you guys, because it's an undisclosed location. And
Right.
And even saying the names, it would give the spot away probably. So we won't say the
Exactly.
names. Maybe we could say the nickname. There's some nickname on that guy's gravestone. But the whole graveyard is like a family graveyard or a community
Mhm.
graveyard. Very, very. Some of the stones are very old. I'm talking about at least maybe 200 years old. Some of them, the stones were carved
Mhm.
with, just primitive tools, and the gravestones are carved like that, and they were fenced in. But Rob, there was one that was not in the fence. It was like it was purposely left out of the fence for some reason, and it was outside the fence where we were parking our cars. And I didn't even
Mhm.
think about it. I thought, man, it was really odd. But I thought, well, maybe they just had to put the fence over there. It didn't make sense to me until you said something when we were at that conference. And I was like, man, that makes more sense. What do you think is up with that?
Well, with the Dogman activity in that area,
Yes. And there's a lot of dogman activity, y'all.
I think that individual, and if you'll get noticing, that grave is facing west.
Okay. So it's opposite of what the other graves were facing.
Yes,
You know what?
ma'am.
You're right. You're right. Now, why would they do something like that? Why would he be outside of the graveyard, out of the fence, and then turn the opposite direction? Is that a sign of disrespect or something? Like, what is that?
To me, from what I've learned over the years and what my Native American medicine woman taught me years ago, that is a very extreme evil person that was involved in some extreme black magic.
Oh, shapeshifters. Yeah, probably so.
Yes, ma'am.
Harley just said he didn't want to be. What did Harley say? He didn't want to be buried with all the hypocrites. Harley, I tell you what. Yeah, he probably was shunned by his family for some reason. Maybe he did get shunned. I was thinking, well, what are all the different possibilities? Maybe he cheated on his wife and she got mad and put him outside the fence. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's way deeper than that, because we take burials and death very seriously as a human, as human beings here, especially in the Appalachians, right? You have family burial plots. It's I want to say reverent. Is that the word? I mean, I don't know. It's something that we don't take lightly. And to have
Exactly.
someone buried outside of the family plot, turned backwards, that's something's wrong with that. Something's wrong.
Well, if you get to noticing, in every graveyard, all the graves are facing east.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being, Bible plainly states that the good Lord, when he comes back, he's going to split the eastern sky. So if you're facing west,
Okay.
according to what we've been taught as a kid, you're going straight to hell if you're buried facing west.
You're going to hell?
Yep.
Oh gosh. So Spider went to hell. Dang. Well, hopefully he didn't. I don't know. I don't want anybody to go to hell. I know I've said that to people before. I didn't mean
I'm
it.
not going to sit here and preach religion to anybody. I'm just stating, what I remember growing up and everything else. If everybody's facing east and you got one facing west, that's one that's not necessarily going where they think they are.
Oh, dang. Well, so we don't want to get buried the wrong way. Okay. Greg Ogles, his ears must have been ringing too. What's up? Greg's in the chat as well. So thank you for being here, Greg. We were just talking about you at the LBM.
Yes, we were.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really interesting. Werewolves, dogmen, things like that, they like to hang out, and Bigfoots too. They like to hang out around cemeteries.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that does account. I personally think that it does account for a lot of that activity out there. That's a really old cemetery and sacred land, and I would dare I say it's probably Native American land out there, and maybe those beings got summoned out there to protect that cemetery or protect that land.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. I don't
Because from
know.
what we found in the woods, we found a lot of stacked rocks that was made into. It looks like a fence, and the only thing we could either
Yeah.
figure out was it was property lines, or something that they use to keep critters out of their garden, or
Hmm.
whatever the case might be. But where that place is at, the history there runs extremely deep, and you may find all the history to it, and then again, you may not, because a lot of the elders that still knows history is probably long gone, and
Hmm.
the younger generation, they're not going to hang on to it like, well, like your grandma and your grandpa and your great grandma and grandpa would. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, there were a lot of people. I was actually surprised because we had taken up the entire area of. We were kind of camping out right there at the cemetery. We were not inside the fence. We were outside the fence, but we did kind of took up a lot of space out there. There was a little space, but we took up all of it. And there were people that came down there to visit that cemetery while we were there. And I actually I felt very bad because we were kind of blocking the path, but it was, it all turned out fine. But there were people that frequent that area down there. And I believe Harley was saying there's a woman that would take her dogs down there and let her dogs run around. And I mean, I would take my dog out there, probably just stay inside that fence. As long as it was inside the fence. I wouldn't let her outside the fence and to go down where we were down that valley. That would not have been safe to take my dog out there, I don't think. But there are people that go down there, and I have to wonder, like, are they getting activity out there? And I did want to make one point that this is in the same county. I know Harley, I think it's okay. I can say this because we've talked about this with Harley on my show. This is like Cott County, where Amber Miller and Tony Aarons were found dead on a road right down the road from there. Okay, so it's not really all that far from where their bodies were found.
no, it's not far at all. And,
Hmm.
and that story with Amber Miller, I'm after the story broke, had come me to find it. I caught wind of it on the news, of course, but you know how the news will twist things a little bit. And I thought, wait a minute, something that don't sound right.
Right.
Well, I got to try to find some stuff online, and I got to listen to Jeffrey Nadolny. He's the one that broke that story. And I said, wait just a minute, hold on. So I got to comparing apples to oranges. I said, I smell a rat. Something other don't jive on this. Well, I discussed it with Harley, discussed it with George, and showed them, what we had. Harley's got more in-depth information on it than what I do. I take my hat off to Harley because I've always nicknamed Harley the blue tick of the woods when he's with us, because he gets something other on his mind. He gets something other going. He's like a freight train. You can't stop him, and I love Harley to death. Harley's one of the best guys I've been out there with.
He's
But we
awesome.
got to studying on that, and it's the only thing that makes sense, because those dogs that's in that report did not do that. Because if those dogs had been guilty when the law showed up,
Yeah.
those dogs would have turned on the law.
Yeah.
The dogs didn't.
It was fishy, wasn't it? It was all fishy. The
Oh,
whole
that
thing.
place, that whole story smells more fishy than a tuna factory.
Okay. Did you know? Were you aware that they put the entire hospital staff? They put the hospital staff and Amber Miller's family under gag orders to not talk about it. She survived for, I think it was 5 days after that attack. She survived and was in the hospital and was talking, but she had lost such a huge percentage of her flesh. She didn't make it.
Oh yeah,
But she was talking, and she was ordered by the family, and the staff were ordered by a judge to keep their mouth shut.
really?
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
Oh yeah.
I'll disclose just a little bit. I'm not going to, blow this completely teetotally out of the water.
Okay.
But the coroner and the game warden, both of them stated, and they were both told to shut up, that the bite marks and the destruction done to the body was a unidentified canine.
Yeah. Unspecified canine. So there's a lot of reports of unspecified canine attacks all over the United States. I've done plenty of shows on them. I've covered the Jimtown Road attacks several times on my channel. I've even done soon after it happened, I was tasked with remote viewing targets of both of those attacks, and that is where in the data for both of those blind targets that I got, it said zombie bear. Rob, zombie bear came up in that data. Zombie bear. I was like, I was almost embarrassed to go on air to talk about that, to say like, oh yeah, it wasn't a pack of wild dogs. I was seeing like a one gigantic animal that all I could describe it as was a zombie bear. A zombie bear of all things. And so I know it's kind of a wild rabbit hole, right? But
yes, ma'am. That's a new one on me. I've never heard tell of anything like that.
Well, it doesn't mean that it was a bear or a zombie, but yeah.
Me and my wife rode through there on several different occasions, and I think George was with us on one particular excursion, but I won't swear to that. We rode through there in broad open daylight.
Okay, down Jimtown?
That is the creepiest place I've ever been in my life. There's nobody out. Lights are on in housing dwellings. And the way everything's laid out, how did somebody not hear her scream? How did somebody not hear Tony Aaron's scream? I don't care if you're stone deaf and your hearing aids went dead. If you scream that type of scream, it's not going to be, like a football game scream or something like it. It's going to be a blood-curdling scream. How is somebody not going to hear that?
I don't know. It's a good question. Because you're going to be screaming for your life.
Exactly. I mean, the way that everything's laid out.
So you went on site.
Like I said earlier, that whole story is just more fishy than a tuna factory.
Man. Angelique says they're running out of tales. They can't keep everyone quiet. Yeah. Well, there were just a lot of people that were very suspicious about that. And even I think they did take some dogs in for quarantine maybe. And it was there was a man who raised, not Presicanarios, but something like Cane Corsos or something like that lived down the road. And people had complained about his dogs. And I think I'm pronouncing that right. Cane Corsos or Cane Corsos. But he had some complaints about his dogs, and so they were trying to blame the dogs for those attacks, but the dogs were never euthanized. Okay, from what I can recall, I don't think those dogs were ever euthanized. There were no parts of there was no DNA from the humans in them or anything like that. So as far as like if they were being eaten,
well, that individual, he wasn't exactly a pillar of the community. I think he had several run-ins with the law. I think they were trying to figure out how to pin it on him.
Yeah. Well, and another thing was they also, didn't mean to interrupt you, but they were also trying to really go with a story about how Tony and Amber had addictions. And they were painting them out to be like, well, Tony was an alcoholic and she was on drugs and things like that. And it was not painting them in a good light, but like, honestly, why would that even matter? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter.
That's what didn't make sense. I mean, everything about it just did not add up. And even the police chief was involved in it. Everybody, it was it was just too strange to try to describe on how much nonsense there was. Nothing added up, and to me, it was like somebody was trying to fabricate the whole entire thing, and they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah. Harley said that man's name was, his nickname was Dogman. That man that owned those dogs down there. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. Here's my take on this. Okay, here's my take on it. And I know this is it sounds like it's kind of out there, but as much as I've covered this so far, I'll just go ahead and say it. One of my viewers had sent me right after that show I did, and I brought up the zombie bear term. And she said, well, hey, I think I know what your zombie bear was. This article just came out. This video from Israeli News just came out. And they're talking about this man had gone before Congress. And he was either with a 3-letter agency or our military. They were working on a super soldier program. And it was right after I had done this whole show on this. It was right after they had both been attacked and their body, and they both died. And it was about like werewolves, basically, that like our military they had done like this program, a super soldier program, where they were combining humans with dogs, bears, and wolves. And they were the program had been going on for decades, and it was getting out of control because they had procreated. They were dropping off pairs of male and female. These are special forces soldiers, they said, that volunteered. Of course, when you're in the military, you're a volunteer anyways, but they said they had volunteered to become these super soldiers, and they were dropping them off in pairs of like men and women all over the world. And one set of those super soldiers had been dropped off in East Tennessee. And they said that on this video, which is all documented, they had gone before Congress to ask for the funding to eliminate all the assets that were left. Apparently the pairs had like reproduced, and that they had kids, and then they had kids, and so they weren't able to track all the new children and stuff. And I guess they were going out and like wreaking havoc on the general population wherever they had been dropped off. And it's just it's a like I said, it's a rabbit hole to go down. But there's documentation of all of this, and just think about it: if it's half human, half animal, super soldiers like Dogman or werewolves, really, I think they were considering them to be werewolves or werebears. We call werebears, not Care Bears, werebears. Okay, but like imagine having like half human, half bear, like super soldiers. Just, I mean, that's wild. And it even went so far to say that you could tell where they were living because it was in the caves, and they had a pentagram painted on the outside of the caves. I've been told don't ever go near a cave that has a pentagram painted on it, because that's where they were keeping these super soldiers. I know it's weird, right? But imagine if I'm not saying that's what happened to Tony and Amber, but it's an idea. I mean, I don't know.
Well, here's the funny part. What you just told me correlates with what Jeffrey Nadolny come out again on a second part of that. Really? He said basically the same thing you did, but he said he said on this one particular one that he had, I can't remember the episode, but these things were genetically modified and engineered in a lab.
Yeah.
They figured out how to outsmart everybody else. They wasn't taking orders.
Exactly. That's why they had to be eliminated.
And they sent supposedly 16 MIBs in to collect them.
In East Tennessee?
12 only came out.
Only 12 of the MIBs?
Exactly, according to Jeffrey Nadolny, if memory serves me correctly.
Wow. Well, ain't nothing to mess with. and they needed to eliminate the assets, and they needed the funding to close that program out. And that's what they were asking. I'm going to send you the link to that. I'm going to send you the link to that after we're done with the show tonight. And
please do.
I will. I'll send it to you. And if I can remember, I'll put it down in the comments after the show. I always forget, y'all. Just remind me, y'all. Okay. Anybody who's listening wants to see that. We will put that article out. I always hold on to that article because I think it's a key piece, like a missing puzzle piece to a lot of these things.
Well, see, that right there's what got us started on where we were at, because we was trying to put two and two together and trying to make a connection, but we found out that there's a lot more than what we bargained for.
Yeah,
we found fairy rings out there in the woods. We found lizard tracks, and I'm not talking, little old lizards this long. I'm talking about tracks like this.
Oh.
And if I'm not bad fooled, I think it was Harley that caught this. It was either him or George one. I can't remember which. There's something translucent that was caught on camera. We had no idea it was there. No clue. We was reviewing the evidence and everything. And Harley brought it to our attention. He said, "What in the name of God is this?" And it looks like it's about 2.5, maybe 3 feet tall. You can see a head shape from that whole, but it's translucent. You can see through it. And it's not a trick of light. It's not a lens flare on a camera. Because all of this was basically overcast days.
Interesting. Well, how far are y'all from Uwharrie? Is that a long way from where you guys were? Uwarie's on the other side of the state.
Uwharrie is about 4.5 hours from my house.
Okay, that's pretty far. Okay, it's pretty far. But my good friend, you know David Pardue. David Pardue, he was at the conference.
Yes, I know Dave quite well.
Oh yeah, David is a good friend of mine. He actually brought some videos to show on my show one night, and we've shown them to the audience a couple times of little people. Like they look like little aliens. To me, they look like aliens, but they're like little people peeking out from behind trees and moving. He has hours and hours of footage of these things out of Uwharrie, and there's even one video where there's like a bunch of them walking in a single file line through the forest. It's weird. Wow. Let me tell you.
I'd love to see that.
I'll get the video for you. I'll show it to you. Y'all have the moon-eyed people out there, and a lot of different things. You mentioned the fairy rings, and all the cave systems y'all have out there, and there's so many places for these things to live, to hide. But I think that there's all sorts of things that aren't supposed to exist. They're all out there. You and I have both seen it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Those little things and the translucent things too. Do you think that could have been something cloaking, or do you think it could have been a spirit? What do you think that was?
To me, I'm thinking along the lines of rake.
A rake, yes.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay. Well, we potentially encountered a rake out in Tennessee, not in East Tennessee. When we were up I did a Skinwalker cave investigation, and we were up in North Tennessee, right in the middle of the state, Whitleyville or Whiteleyville. I can't remember. I think it's Whitleyville.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're at.
We were up there, and Fair doesn't live there anymore. They moved out. Thank God they moved out of there. They had that cave like 30 feet from behind their back door, and had all that activity.
She talked to us one night and was begging for us to come out there and see what we could find. And she never did get back in contact with us. I don't know if she had a conflict with work or whatever. But if you're noticing where she's at, look on the map and see how close you are to the Bell Witch.
Oh yeah, that's another place. That's another place I need to go. Actually, John Bell's 5th great grandson has been on my show before. He came on.
Awesome.
Guess where he lives? At the LBL. Actually, he lives up there by
Really?
the LBL. Yeah. We need to just do a tour, and I'm gonna take him with us. Okay, go down to the Bell Witch Cave and stuff, because it's all right there. And this was a straight up Skinwalker cave, and it was Choctaw land. And the story behind it was that a Choctaw medicine man had banished a whole bunch of skinwalkers into that cave and sealed it up, energetically sealed it up, didn't put a rock over it, didn't concrete it over or put plywood over or nothing. He just energetically, spiritually sealed it up. And then Farrah and them moved in with that in their backyard. Could you imagine?
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd have to go check that out before I moved in a place like that. Yeah, I'm not a cave type of a girl, honestly. I'm not a huge fan. But getting back to the pale crawler. Okay, so some of the guys had gone back a little way further back in the cave than I was willing to go. Okay, and when they got back there, Drewski decided he was going to whistle, and he probably shouldn't whistle inside a dark cave. It wasn't very smart, but that's what we do. We do dumb stuff. And he whistled.
Don't feel bad. We do the same thing. If we can get a reaction out of something other, we'll try it just to see. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't.
It worked. I believe a pale crawler peeked its head out from down, in the back of the cave, kind of back there, and I think they got it on video. I'm pretty sure. So. But they're out there, and my buddy Don Tart. I think you know Don. He was at the Bigfoot conference in Georgia. He came with David. He was there with them, and he has a video of a pale crawler in his yard, right there at the border of like South Carolina and Georgia, right there. So not too far from where we were up there in North Georgia. So they're everywhere. I'm just telling her. Harley said, "Don't tell me the dumb stuff that he's done." Harley, I've been out there with you. I already know the silly stuff you do. Okay. I'm just kidding.
I know what he's referring to. And just for meanness, I'm going to go ahead and tell it.
Oh, tell me. Harley, you should have never said that. What did you say? Tell me.
We were over in East Tennessee.
Here we go, Harley.
Oh Lord, I laugh about this, and bless his heart, he pulled the same stunt over in Franklin, North Carolina, and I'll get to that story here in just a minute, because that includes the other Bigfoot that we saw. We were over in East Tennessee. Bless his heart, love him to death. He's like the little brother that I never had. We got smelling something other out in the wood. I mean rank. We're following this game trail. We're finding twist breaks. We're finding structures and this, that, and the other, And we come upon this oak tree up there. And this oak tree about, I guess 3.5, maybe 4 foot up on it, was just as black as tar. I mean, black as road tar.
Okay.
Closer we got to that tree, the worse that it stunk. To make a long story short, we found a piss post. Urine smell ungodly. Harley gets down there and just about sticks his nose to the tree.
Well, he had to get a good sniff.
So he gets a big snooter full of that. He goes to vapor locking.
Snooter.
he goes to gagging, air heaving, and all that other stuff. I thought he was going to lose his breakfast for the past 6 months. He turned 37 different shades of green, 47 different shades of gray. We're all standing there cracking up saying, "Harley, get your nose out of it, buddy." We laugh about that for a whole entire time now.
Hey, he
Over in
smelled it so y'all didn't have to. Okay, he was doing y'all a favor so nobody
oh
else had to
yeah,
smell
yeah.
it.
That's the reason why I nicknamed him the Bloodhound. He's
Harley,
the blue
Harley,
tick hound of MCI. I'm
he took
telling you.
one for your team. He took one for the team.
Oh
Okay, he took it
yeah,
for the team.
he took as old
Good
saying
job,
goes, he took
Harley.
one for the Gipper.
Good job,
But
Harley.
we
You can depend on
but we
him.
were over in Franklin, and again it was a whole bunch of us. It was Tim and George and Harley, myself, my wife, and we had one other guy. I think his name was Doug Lockmiller. I think his name was, and that's when we got to see the rest of them. We found a big old structure, and it looked like a nest. So George and Harley gets over, and it's rank. I mean, superior, teetotally rank. And Harley does it again, and he's over. I thought he was going to start to eat leaves to get the taste out of his mouth because I mean it was so daggum pungent. The, the smell was horrible. I mean, it was hideous. I kid you not. I mean, the smell was hideous. So Harley does it again, and we go on up. We go on up the trail, and we go to a place that we dubbed the playground. Now, reason why we called it the playground, the way they had the trees and everything constructed, it looked just exactly like they had moved a jungle gym in there with trees. They had trees. There's no way these trees fell natural like this. They were woven and placed and everything else. Well, Harley and my wife goes up to the right hand side of the hill, and there's these sticks about this big around, and looked like it was probably about 2.5, maybe 3 feet high, give or take, stove up in the ground ever so often, kind of like it was either a barrier or a trail or something. Well, Harley hollers. I barely do see a glimpse of something. Him and my wife and George sees the juveniles taking off. Well, they go on up further up on the hill and they get growled at.
Mhm.
Mama wasn't happy. She wasn't having none of it. So they got back to our woods and got back to our woods quick. Me and Tim was down there where the what we call the playground area. I mean, it was just more slick where somebody been down there just wallering and a playing. No deer tracks, no nothing. Well, we go back into that same area this year, this spring, with Jerry and Tim and George and myself. Playground's been erased. It looked like
Erased.
it had never, yeah, it looked like it had
Really?
never been no trees stuck up there or anything, and everything's gone. I mean, it was like no record, no sign of anything anywhere.
Really? Just kind of
Yeah,
disappeared out of the blue. Do you think they were maybe
it's
somebody
like
was trying to hide the evidence or something?
I think what happened when we went up there last year, we got too close. They did not like that. They didn't appreciate it. And in the same area this year, which was about 400 yards down the hill, we found another bedding area, and we found one area that looked like a war zone. You know how hard laurel bushes are to break by hand.
Yes.
Whatever broke this had to have opposable thumbs to grab a hold of it and break it. We found juvenile prints, and about 6 feet from the juvenile prints, we were finding dogman prints. We had a dogman circle us all day long, followed us all the way back to the truck. When
Wow.
we got back to the truck, we were just standing there, taking a break, just, being our old goofy selves and everything. And I get noticing George standing there, and he's got this funny look on his face. I said, George, what in the world's the matter with you? Jerry and Tim's aggravating and teasing one another and playing, carrying on. And George just gets this one strange, odd look. I know I can see the wheels turning. He turns around and he says, Rob, do me a favor. And I said, what's that? He said, do you mind look about 45 yards right through that hole that's in the woods right there? And there's a clearing about that big around, about 45 yards out in front of us. He said, tell me I'm not seeing things. I said, okay. I get to looking, stand there for a few minutes. I said, George, hit the woods, hit the woods, hit the woods, George, hit the woods. So we take off after him. There was a juvenile over there. He was pulling this number. He'd poke his head out, and he'd lean over and give us a look, and he'd come in behind a tree like this. He'd ease over and look, and he'd jerk his head back. And when he seen us take a step, he took off all the way down. We never did catch him. We seen where he tore the leaves up, 3-foot strides.
Yeah.
That little devil was getting it on. He was getting out of Dodge. And we got over, and they had this. I mean, it was just a complete elaborate setup. They had laurel leaves intertwined, just like weaving a basket. Had a hedge set up where they could watch traffic coming up and down the road, and you would never see them. Jerry went over and he said, let me try something other. Now, Jerry's decked out in camouflage. The only thing he had on was a black shirt, part of camouflage pants, and had his hat on.
Yeah.
He goes over and he lays down. We get within 12 feet of him. You cannot see him. That's how tight woven. They had this wall kind of like a hedge set up. And where we were at, I mean, granted it's Forest Service land, but it's a public road.
Mm-hmm.
You can sit right there and watch anybody you wanted to come by. You could have took a water pistol, those super soaker water guns.
Oh,
you could have sat right there and drowned everybody that come by if they had their window down. They'd have never known who done it and where it came from.
Yeah, they're good at camouflage. And so, that's where the argument comes in when we talk about this with like, well, Bigfoot's interdimensional or Bigfoot's, and I do believe that Bigfoot has an X factor. There's something different about them. There's something supernatural. There's something supernatural about humans too, though. Okay. Some of us have abilities. Okay. I'm just saying. And so do Bigfoots, but they are, I remember hearing you say one time, I don't know where I heard you say this, but you said something about a Bigfoot moving so fast you couldn't even hardly see it because it moves so fast, right? Did you say that? I feel like I remember hearing you say that. They move so fast you can't see them. It's almost to us it's supernatural, but to them it's natural, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, Jessica. Now this is no joke. I've been deer hunting and been in the woods deer hunting since I was big enough to hold a gun in my hand, and Daddy trusted me to be by myself, which was about 12-year-old. I've seen deer, I've seen bear, I've seen bobcats, I've seen squirrels, I've seen raccoon, about anything that Western North Carolina has to offer in the woods. I've seen them sneak up on me. You can hear a squirrel at 200 yards as dry as the ground is. I've had deer and bear walk up behind me, never make a sound, trying to figure out how did they do that. I've seen them take off. I've seen them vanish in the woods, and I don't mean portal jumping. I mean step in between a tree, a bush, or something other, and if they don't move, you will never see them. And to be quite honest, the Bigfoot that I have witnessed seeing in the woods is the most quick, agile, fast individual that I have ever witnessed in my whole entire life. I lie you not. I've never seen anything that quick.
It's almost supernatural to us. And when you think about it, have you ever heard the Sierra Sound with, Ron Moorhead had recorded back in the Sierra Mountains. And I remember one of the first Bigfoot conference I ever went to was in North Georgia in 2012. And Ron Moorhead was there and R. Scott Nelson was there. And he's the guy who took those recordings, and he's like a linguist or something with the Navy or something like that. Or he used to be. And he was picking out like phonemes and stuff. Like he determined that those sounds were actually a language, like their own. Is a whole bunch of like dialects and languages, like from us humans all over the world. But speed them up or slow them down, it almost sounds more like our languages, like English, Spanish, French, like Indian dialects and stuff. I mean, it's wild, right? But it's like our ears, they're on a different frequency than we are or something. Do you know what I mean? Like when they speak, if you slow it down, you can hear it better. But you have to have the audio equipment to like slow this stuff down or speed it up or however it goes. It's just they're on a different frequency than we are, I think. That's what I think.
Well, that samurai chatter that everybody claims that they hear, I've listened to the Sierra Sounds. I've listened to other people's. And if you know what to listen for and really and truly pay attention. Now, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying it's gospel, but in my opinion, it sounds to me like extremely fast-paced Native American speech. That's what it sounds like to me. I mean, I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
It does. That's how they slowed that down. R. Scott Nelson, that's what he was doing. I think he was like slowing some of it down and hearing it. And it sounds just like languages from all over the world. Even archaic Japanese was one of those languages.
Yeah.
French, German, English. It's just wild that it's like all these languages from all over the world combined into like the Bigfoot language. It seems unreal, right? But I've heard it.
If you get to thinking about it, the cave drawings and everything else, and everybody's personal encounters, and you've got the Native Americans that used to trade with them, and you've got other people, even the Vikings run into them. I think it was Leif Erikson, if I'm not bad fooled, ran into them, and he was extremely scared to death of them. His men wouldn't have nothing to do with them. So you take a creature that's been in the woods, and I'm sure they passed down to the next generation just like we do, whether it be cave drawings or whether it be, they tell the next generation of everything. They probably know every language on the planet because they've been around everybody. They've been around for eons.
Yeah, that's what I've always said. They've been here longer than we have, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And and who's to say they're not traveling through tunnels and I don't know, just their inner Earth, traveling through inner Earth and being able to travel, I don't know, different ways than us little humans up here are. And I don't know. I just think it's fantastic. There's so much that we don't know about Bigfoot and Dogman and all that stuff. And I don't know. I mean, there's just more we don't know than we know. And honestly, I don't know nothing about nothing. Okay. I don't know a whole lot. And I've been out there doing this research for a long time. And I just have fun doing it. And I don't know. Do you think that we're ever going to get any kind of like disclosure from our government? Do you think our government even knows about these things?
Absolutely, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. Do you think they work with our government?
I think the government has them, Dogman, and maybe some of the reptilians trying to use them, in a super soldier program. If you take Hitler, for example, that's what he tried to do there at one point in time, and it backfired very badly. And Russia tried it, and it backfired. China tried it, and it backfired. I think with the technology that we've got today, given what happened over on Jimtown Road, I'm just about thoroughly convinced, and this is my opinion, I'm just about thoroughly convinced that was nothing but an experiment, went completely, totally wrong. They can't control it. It got to the point where they've interbred with the coyotes, they've interbred with the wolves, they've created a whole entire new species that will not be controlled by nothing. There's certain species out there, they may produce them in a lab to be sterile, but if the right conditions are met, they can reverse that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah,
So
for sure.
with that being said, I'm not getting on a religious kick, but when you get somebody trying to play God, it's not going to work out as well as you hope it's going to.
No, it's not. It's never a good thing to do that. But yet, here we are today with clones and CRISPRs, DNA splicing, and animal-human hybrid experiments, and replicants.
Well, you take the
and
dire wolves, for
reptilian
example,
shapeshifters.
that they brought back. I'm afraid one day they're going to wish they hadn't done that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that have claimed that they have heard things. Okay, and I know this is kind of like going down a different avenue here, but let's just take the LBL for example. People hear things like garbage cans getting dropped on the ground, like metal sounds out in the woods and things like that, and it makes you wonder, like, well, this is right before like a Dogman sighting happens. Okay, or some kind of cryptid sighting. There will be a sound of like really heavy metal scraping out there or being dropped. And so it makes you wonder, like, well, is there some kind of door opening to like a underground facility or something where they're unleashing the dogmen and letting them go run, or or the doors closing? Is it feeding time? Like, let's go feed on the campers out there. I don't know. It sounds terrible, right? But I mean, we got to think about this kind of stuff. What is that?
I heard that one time. I was deer hunting last fall, and I remembered George and Tim talking about hearing that same sound 2 or 3 different times over in Franklin, North Carolina. And I just kept sitting, studying, trying to think, what in the world is them guys talking about? Well, where I was at, deer hunting, I'm 2 miles way back up in the woods, away from anything and everybody. There's nobody close by, no houses or anything else for that matter. And I got to hearing a sound that sounded just exactly like pots and pans clanging.
Really?
I never did see anything. There, where I was at, there's no dogman activity. There's no dogman evidence. There's no Bigfoot evidence or any of the sort. To be quite honest, it's just another mystery and another piece of the puzzle that just has yet to fit. It'll fit somewhere, but I don't know.
Well, like my team always says, okay, from the very beginning, it may not make sense at that moment, but just don't discount it and don't forget about it. Write it down. That's why it's important that I always keep a journal, and anything that happens, I write it down, because one day that little tiny piece of information, like the pots and pounds sound, somebody else is going to talk about that one day, and you're going to be able to say, well, what kind of situation were they in? What were the conditions? Where were they? And it'll all start to connect the dots. And like I said, I love connecting dots, and I love looking for patterns and things, and being able to connect with people like yourself and Harley and all the people who are in the chat who are also investigators and researchers, and all the people I bring on my shows. We're able to kind of start connecting dots after a while, because we're all having these similar instances and these experiences out there.
Yeah, the more I know and the more I experience, the more I want to know and the more that I do want to experience. Now, granted, I've seen several Bigfoot in my day. I don't ever want to stop seeing them.
Yeah.
I want to be able to continue to see them. whether it be a close-up, whether it be one runs by me or, whatever. Now, the one that earlier on this year when George and Harley and I was out there in the same spot in East Tennessee where me and you both have been.
Mm-hmm.
We were out on the ridge, past the graveyard. George is behind me. He's playing with his camera, trying to get his shoulder camera to work.
Yeah.
Harley's in front, and we get noticing something with parallelness on the left-hand side. Well, I'm in the middle. And again, it's one of those days where the weather's not real cooperative. It's kind of on the nasty side. It was trying to rain and snow and sleet and everything else. And I just happened to look up. I'm listening to what's going on to our left because it's just outside of sight through the laurel bushes there. I know we got something other on our left, parallelness, walking just in a straight line like we were. Well, Harley's paying attention to it, and I'm still listening, but I'm watching in front of us. And I see something other, and I'm like, where'd that shadow come from? I thought, there's no way there could be a shadow right there because there's no sunshine. It's overcast. There's no way in the world we can have a shadow. And about that time, Harley just vaguely almost comes to a stop. And Harley's about 20 feet in front of me. And this thing is about 30 yards ahead of Harley.
Wow.
All of a sudden, that shadow sticks his head out from behind the tree, turns and looks at me, and I'm like, oh my God. I said, whoa, 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 stop. Harley, stop. So Harley goes to freaking out. George is behind me trying to figure out what I'm hollering about. This creature is about 9 foot tall, looks like a NBA basketball player.
Oh,
He's
like skinny?
long, lanky.
Really?
He wasn't real wide. He takes off across the trail, covers about 100 yards in less than 7 seconds. Never makes a sound. So we get taken off after him, and we get halfway down through there and stop. And we can see way off. It's like he's standing down there like, come on, come on, come on. Harley said, wait just a minute, something's not right. And I said, go back to the laurel thicket. I said, that's a distraction. I said, we've got more behind us that's been following us. We go back and run a tape measure. And where this thing went across the trail and where he was standing at the last time I saw him, exactly 9.5 feet tall.
Oh, dang.
And that's no joke.
Those things are
So we
huge
go
out
on,
there.
I guess the ground's good to them, or they eat good one. I don't know.
Well, there's a creek down there, and you know what? Actually, if I recall, one of the prints that we had out there was one of the older prints was 21 inches. It might have been one of the same prints, actually. Now that I think about it, when we were down there, we hardly got the measuring tape out. It was 21 inches over there by that log. It's like a log that had fallen on the trail right there, going down to the valley, down towards the creek.
The one that I just told you about, we were probably 100 yards from where Harley and George got on the one that George saw, and he was 8.5 feet tall. We nicknamed him Alfalfa
because
he had some hair sticking straight up on top of his head, kind of like Alfalfa on the Little Rascals. And they run him in on top of me, and he got within 40 yards of me, and I couldn't see him.
Really?
I could hear him coming through the woods, sound like a bulldozer, tearing everything in the world down. And he doubled back. He must have either seen me or smelt me one. I don't know what he did, but Harley and George, one jumped him and ran him in. They measured from where he was standing, and he was about 4 foot wide at shoulders, 8.5 foot tall, and just as black as coal dirt.
Oh man. Well, that's pretty wild. I'm not surprised at all. And Harley had a good point. He actually had mentioned in the chat a while ago about Oak Ridge Labs. Okay, and I know that's not too far. I think it's like a couple of counties over, maybe a little bit north of where that is.
Yep.
But however, they admittedly have a large ion collider, and they work with CERN in Switzerland.
Yep.
I mean, they're opening up portals to other dimensions and stuff there, probably. I mean, I don't know. They do a whole lot of top secret experiments, and I think that's where they worked on that atomic bomb there, if I'm not mistaken. Decades ago.
I'm not bad fooled. I think Oak Ridge is basically set up to look like an atomic reactor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 110% convinced that it's an actual atomic reactor.
Yeah, it's something. It's something weird down there, and I have an uncle.
Right about this place.
I have an uncle that used to. Well, he was in the military. Let's just say he was in the military, and he started working for the DoD. I'm not going to get into detail about my uncle and all this kind of stuff, but he actually told me that he had been there. He worked it. He did some work at the Oak Ridge Labs. I was surprised. I don't know. There's a lot of people. I actually have another friend. I have another friend who's a scientist who works with, he's got a lot of information on UFOs and stuff, and he used to work at Oak Ridge Labs as well. I know a couple of people that have worked at Oak Ridge Labs down there, and you got to have some kind of clearance to work there, right? Some kind of secret clearance, top secret clearance, I think. However that works. Yeah, but we don't know what all they're doing there. I mean, you're talking about this tall, lanky, Bigfoot looking thing. I mean, what all kind of creatures are coming in and out of there via the Oak Ridge Labs?
No idea.
I wonder. Like Stranger Things. Yeah. Somebody in the chat said it sounds like Stranger Things. I agree. What'd you say, Rob?
I said, that's just about what it reminds you of.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, Pilgrim Society said that. Harley said that he's heard a lot about their biology labs. And Pilgrim says, this is sounding a lot like Stranger Things. Yes, the upside down. The upside down world. Like Montauk, too. I mean, it's above my pay grade. How about that? We'll just leave it at that. It's above my pay grade.
Yeah, that's way above mine. I'm a retired police officer. I spent 25 years off and on of my life as a police officer and a security officer.
Oh, yeah.
That's about as far as I'm gonna go with it on that.
Yeah. Oh man, I bet you've seen some strange things. I bet you have, especially working as a law enforcement official in the Appalachians. Okay, I can only imagine the kind of calls you get. I mean, when it comes down to videos, like it's really big on TikTok. TikTok, my trusted news source. I joke around about that a lot. It's not really my trusted news source, but they're actually more reliable than some of the news agencies on TV. Okay. But anyways, there's all these videos of like Appalachian folklore. And I mean, our buddy Jerry's got a fantastic TikTok page. Okay. If that's what you call it. And he talks about all his Appalachian folklore and stories, but a lot of like videos, people today have Ring cameras and stuff. And there's all these Ring camera videos of like pell crawlers and witches, old hags and things coming out of the woods and scratching on the doors and the windows and saying, let me in. So does that really happen out there where you live? Have you ever had any calls like that?
Well, no, not exactly. But the stories that Jerry's been telling are gospel.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And that's about all I'm going to say about it.
That's all you're going to say? That's all you're going to say? Dang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I've never witnessed anything like that. Seriously, I've not.
You haven't? Okay.
No.
Well, that's fair enough. Fair enough. If you've never witnessed it. Okay. But yeah, I think one of the creepiest places to live would be in the Appalachian Mountains. But I would also love to live, because I live down here at the bottom tip of the Appalachians. And for people who aren't familiar, I do have a picture to show y'all where the Appalachians are. This is actually the Blue Ridge Mountains right here, because I live near the Blue Ridge Mountains down here in Georgia, but they run smack dab through where you live. That bright red, the reddish area, the darker red area, that's around the area where you live, and you do a lot of your research. And Harley too. Harley's not too far from all that as well.
No.
And yeah, I'm down there in the light pink, right there, right at Alabama and Georgia. I'm not going to tell you exactly where, but I'm down there in Georgia. Still considered kind of Blue Ridge, but it's definitely the Appalachians right there. So, but that's it. In case y'all don't know exactly where the Blue Ridge Mountains are. I didn't realize the Blue Ridge Mountains went all the way up north, up to Pennsylvania. I had no idea. I didn't know they considered that Blue Ridge.
Went that far up.
I thought Blue Ridge was just in Georgia and North Carolina. Honestly,
well,
I didn't even know they went further north.
Same thing myself.
I know, right? Are these maps even right? I don't know, because that's not what I was told. But it shows that the Blue Ridge goes all the way up north. I mean, that goes all the way into Canada. What is that? Looks like Canada.
I believe it is Canada.
It is Canada. So it goes all the way up into Canada. And but hey, you know what? There's a lot of cryptid activity all through there. Lots of cryptid activity. The farther north you go, they've got like gugway. I mean, there's evidence of like gugways. Lots of dogman up that way. Wendigos, the big W, okay, is up that way as well. And down here where you and I live, down the southern end of that, we've got the S-walkers. I've said that word way too much tonight. I need to quit saying it. S-walkers and lots of Bigfoots. There's Bigfoots up north too. I mean, our buddy, my buddy Long Island Bigfoot is in the chat tonight, and he is up there in New York on Long Island. Actually, I've gone Bigfooting with him on Long Island before. You'd be shocked. Long Island is not all big city New York. It's the Hamptons. It's very wooded. Lots of deer, more deer than I've ever seen in my life. That'll just walk right up to you. And so anyways, I've been Bigfooting up there. The Appalachian Mountains go all the way up there too. Okay. Up that way. And but lots of cryptid activity though. I mean, so much local legends and lore. One of my favorites out there where you live is Spearfinger. Are you familiar with her? Yeah. Do you ever hear any stories about her?
To be honest, the first time I ever heard about Spearfinger, and I don't know if you remember him or not, there used to be an old fellow by the name of David Holt. He told old folk tales and legends and everything, and he came to my school when I was probably in the 5th grade. And that story is what got me hooked. I've been hooked on Spearfinger ever since the 5th grade. The way he told those stories made you feel like you were actually living and watching and experiencing the whole story.
Yeah. Man, there's nothing like a good storyteller. And when I was in elementary school, this is a little tidbit that my audience at this hunt club knows about this, but my main audience here, the bigger audience, may not know that when I was in elementary school, I won 2 storytelling contests. Imagine that, y'all, me being a storyteller. But I did that. My grandmother wrote me some stories. She wrote them herself, and it had to do with, the first one was about the legend of Shiloh Sheila, about a ghost whose husband had gone off to the Civil War and fought to fight. She died, and her ghost was haunting the woods, and so that was one of my stories. And the other one was about Miss Mahaley Lancaster, a local real fortune teller here in West Georgia. Back in the day. And so I had 2 stories that I told, and I won both of those storytelling contests, and I won the countywide storytelling contest too. So I love a good story. Listen, they have a Georgia storytelling festivals and all that. If y'all go, this is like oral tradition stuff getting passed down too. It's not just all made up stories. Some of these things they're talking about is real.
Yes, they are.
Yes. Harley said that Tennessee is very secretive.
Yes, they are.
The mountains are
extremely.
Yes, the mountain, the Appalachians, people are secretive there too, and just don't talk about stuff. Just like I was saying, I've already said the S word way too many times and stuff like that. It's a little bit different. Y'all look out for each other too, though, right? Oh, I do have this meme. I think I uploaded this today. I think I forgot to upload it. Matthew Delph had put something on Facebook, and I stole his meme, and I was going to show it to everybody tonight. It was a picture of this right here. It's actually the Appalachians, but it was a picture of a map, kind of like this, and it said it's all fun and games until these people get involved, and it had a circle around the Appalachians, because that's true. It's like don't mess with the people in the Appalachians. I'm just saying, just don't. It's a different breed. You know what I mean? And when it's just like playing, that's your home turf right there too. So if anything were to, if there was ever a war, let's just say a war came to our, hopefully it'll never happen. Right. But you got the high ground, right? You got the high ground out there and stuff. So yeah, I love it. I hope to live in the Appalachians one day soon. I'd like to move up there and have my house hit with Bigfoot. Bigfoot hit my house all night. I don't know. Do you think that I'd want that? Do you ever have that at your house? Have you ever had any Bigfoots on your property?
I've got one actually.
Do you right now?
Well, right now he's, if I'm not bad fooled, I've not heard or seen anything out of him in probably about 2 weeks. Due to the heat, I think he's a bit higher up on Mount Mission.
Oh yeah.
How come me to find this this creature on my property? It's kind of a lengthy story, and I'm going to try my best to make a short version of it.
Okay.
Make a long story short, me and my wife owns a goat farm, and I've got several Great Pyrenees livestock guardian dogs, and these dogs are pretty loyal. They'll do just about anything that I ask them to, and I can distinguish between their barks, whether it's, another dog's come up the road, or, I've got several people that just leisurely walks up and down the road. They'll bark, but if something like a coyote or a bear or something that comes around, they've got this one distinctive bark that I pick up on. And my one dog, Jethro, he's the leader of the pack. If he does this real low, slow, rolling growl, you can well rest assured there's something other that's not supposed to be there. And you can tell that it's not a coyote, it's not a bear. And me and my wife was over at the barn, and we got to smelling something other, and we thought something other was dead. I mean, we thought a deer had died, or somebody's cat had got run over, or something like that. And all of a sudden, Jethro's nose went in the air, and he started doing that real low, slow, rolling growl. So he puts me and her back in the barn. All the goats is in the barn. He refuses to let them come out. Well, this goes on, a couple months. And this was prior to Hurricane Helene, before Hurricane came through. And we've been smelling stuff like that. And we got to hearing, tree knocks in the woods. And I thought, no, this can't be. No, we're letting our mind, get the better of us, thinking imagination's running wild. Well, I was sitting in the house one evening. Wife was on her tablet. I was on my phone. Didn't have TV on or anything. And I heard Jethro make that real low growl again. She said, "You better go out there on the porch and see what's going on." So at the time, I had my truck parked right at the edge of my house, and it wasn't 15 feet off the corner of the house where I had the truck parked. So I go down through there, took my flashlight, and I opened the door on the truck and get my pistol. So I get my pistol out of the truck, shut the truck back, start to walk off, I hear a stick pop. 10 feet past my truck, I've got a big old hemlock tree that's probably 9 foot tall, somewhere around in that neighborhood. And down towards the stalk, down towards the ground, limbs is kind of sparse. So I just turn my head a little bit, and I see something other. It don't register at the time. But I'll tell you what I saw, and this will correlate with the rest of it. I see something other real light brown in color, real shaggy. And it looks like from about the waist down.
Wow.
I never think nothing of it. I've got my goats on my mind because I've got two different spots. I've got the lot where I keep my billies and my pig in one spot. I've got the barn where I keep my nannies and the babies over at the other part, at the other barn. I go down through there and I get to looking. All my dogs are in guard formation. Every animal I got are in the barn.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing out in the field. No, absolutely nothing. So I'm sitting there scratching my head trying to figure out what's going on. And these dogs is all looking past my truck in the same angle where my truck parked and everything. They're looking in that direction. So I'm standing there going, wait just a confounded minute. I'm thinking all this stuff to myself. And I said, I did see something. So I go back to the truck and go where the hemlock tree's at. I find two indictions in the ground about 2 feet apart.
Oh.
So I go to following tracks. Again, it always pays to have a good flashlight with you because my flashlight is trying to go out on me. So I'm following the best way I can. So I'm following through the pine needles, 2 foot strides. Some of them's at 3 foot. It's not complete prints, it's more heel prints than anything. And I get to losing light, and I hear something other behind me, and I think, uh-oh, this thing has doubled back and got behind me. So between where my house is at and the barn, there's a little bit of a ravine, a natural little old spring, and it goes back up the other side, and then you go into the goat pasture. When I get to looking around there, I get hearing bipedal steps in the creek. I get hearing.
Uh-oh, I think we got a...
Yeah, we had a technical booger right
Yeah,
there
you're
for
back.
a second.
You're back. It froze for a second. You're back.
Yeah.
We got you. Okay.
So he had doubled back behind me and got into the creek and started following the creek back up the hill.
Okay.
I got to replaying what I thought, what I remembered seeing in my head when I come around to get the pistol out of my truck. Because I never go to the barn unless I've got a pistol, because it could be a coyote, could be a bear, If anything gets my goats, I'm gonna help my dogs out if they get in trouble, and can't run it off. And I'm standing there thinking, light brown color, shaggy, and I go to remembering the juvenile that I saw in 2019, and everything else, get to replaying everything. In my head, I'm like, I honestly, God, have seen this creature on my property.
Whoa.
And judging by the prints that I found and the size of his leg, I nicknamed him Junior because I figured he's either a a teenager or a juvenile, either one. So I just nicknamed him Junior. And a lot of times you'll either smell him or you'll hear a tree knock or something other if you're outside. And I'll just talk to him and say, Junior, it's me. I'm not going to hurt you. And so far, he's not created a problem. And as far as I don't know if he's been kicked out or if he's sneaking off, like teenagers do. I don't know because I've never really and truly, what you'd say, encountered the rest of his tribe.
It looks like you got a picture of him behind you. Did you get a portrait made of Junior?
No, believe it or not,
I'm just kidding.
That is a Hobby Lobby special.
That's from Hobby Lobby? Like, you know what? That's from Hobby Lobby. That is too funny. And that is too. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. Okay. I'm not sponsored by anybody.
Oh, I'm not either.
But I'm just saying they've got good stuff right now. Listen, if they've got that you've got, I'm going to go buy. I want to buy one too. Man, that's cool. That's cool. I've
seen that. And I thought that was the coolest thing it ever was. So I thought I just went ahead and bought it. My wife was standing there shaking her head going, oh, Lord, what in the name of God has Hobby Lobby done? They've created a monster.
Oh, my gosh. You know what? That's a really good marketing thing, though, for them because there's so many Bigfoot fans these days. And so I love it. I love that painting. I love it. I think it's great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's great. How does your wife feel about it, about having Junior living out there?
Well, actually, she and I both have made it verbally known to him. As long as you leave the goats alone and tell the rest of your family to leave the goats alone, we'll get along fine. But if you go to attacking the goats and go to attacking the livestock dogs, it's not going to fare well. And I'm pretty well sure and convinced, as long as Bigfoot's been on this earth and have encountered different cultures, different styles of people, different dialects, and everything else, I'm thoroughly convinced they know exactly what you're meaning and what you're saying. They might not, be able to sit down and have a beer with you, but they know. I mean, these creatures are not stupid by no means. I mean, a lot of people says, well, why can't we see this? Why can't we do that? Why can't we get them on game camera and this, that, and the other? People don't take in other factors. When you go into the woods, you're going into Bigfoot's living room. You're going into their house. They know whatever leaf, they know whatever tree, they know whatever rock, they know what everything smells like at any distance. And when you take something other foreign, something other that does not belong, they know it. I'm convinced they can see the hour lights on a game camera. When you open up a game camera from whether it be Bass Pro Shop, Walmart, Tractor Supply, anywhere, and you crack that open, what's the first thing that you smell? You
battery.
Smell plastic.
Batteries.
You smell petroleum.
Yeah.
And it don't make no difference how good that you think that you're doing in the woods by putting these game cameras up trying to hide them. Right here is the main source of everybody's problem. You've got shampoo on your hands, you've got deodorant on your hands, you've got perfume on your hands, you've got gas on your hands. Everything that you've encountered that day is stored right here.
Ew.
And when you handle something,
I just smelled my hand.
When you have hand lotion, it doesn't make any difference. I have seen bear in the woods take game cameras and destroy them. If a bear can destroy that and smell the camera, if they can smell this, what makes you think Bigfoot can?
They can totally smell it. They can. We just had Flat Rock on the show last Saturday night and out of Alabama. And Flat Rock was telling us about how his cameras had been turned. You know, he had cameras out there and stuff. They'll go up and turn your cameras. A lot of people talked about that. You put cameras out around your house, and if you've got like game cams or whatever, they'll rip the game cams up, you know, or they'll just move them. If you've got cameras around your house, they will move the cameras. They'll just shift them so they can't, wherever they're pointing, if they're pointing towards your chicken coop, like at Farrah's house, they will turn the camera so you don't see them going and stealing your chickens. It's crazy.
Well, it's just like with Tim Dill's. Next time you talk to him, get him to show you those two pictures he's got. He's got a picture of a coon in a cage. The next picture, you see this black fuzzy thing standing in front of a game camera. And all this happens in less than 2 minutes, give or take. The next shot, there's no coon in that cage. The cage is 25 or 30 feet away from the camera.
Oh, man.
So you've got one Sasquatch standing there blocking the camera while the other one gets the coon out of the cage. And the only way you can get the coon out of the cage, you have to take your hand and reach up and under it in order to unlock it from the inside. Yeah. It's not unlocked from the outside. You have to reach up in there and unlock it.
Oh, yeah. Got to have some intelligence, and you probably got to have thumbs, too. Got to have a full hand.
In order to do something like that. A coon is not going to let another coon like that out of a cage. A possum can't do that. A bear definitely can't. A bear's going to beat the cage to death to get out whatever is inside that cage.
Yeah.
And these things are extremely intelligent.
They are very intelligent. They are. I was going to ask you when you were talking about wood knocks earlier. You were talking about wood knocks, and Bigfoot Whisperer 64 has a question here. What kind of tree knocks do you hear over your way? What kind of tree knocks? And I'm not sure if there's like a variety of tree knocks. I've only heard one kind of wood knock, right? But I personally believe that tree knocks are not tree knocks. I think that they're clicking their mouth. I think they're clicking their tongue. What do you think?
That could possibly be true. It sounds just exactly like somebody taking a 2x4 and hitting a maple with it. Sometimes you get just one. Every great now and then, you might get a series of 3. And then again, you might just get 2. But 9 times out of 10, it'll be 1, but it'll be spaced out like a couple seconds later. But when you hear the other one, it's not in the same location. It's in a different location.
Oh, yeah. I love hearing tree knocks. Sometimes we'll just hear one tree knock. Just one. That's it. And I've got it in my head. I believe it's not always like them hitting a stick. I think they can do it with their mouth, like a mouth click or something. It sounds like a tree knock, but I don't know. I've never seen them do it. So I don't know, but I think it's a possibility.
You remember back in school, probably grade school, some of the kids would pop their tongue and it sound real loud in school.
Yes. Oh my gosh, my friend Craig Action Jackson on my team. Craig is so funny. He's come on the show before. He talked about how, what do you call it? He called it tongue jitsu or something. I don't know why that's so funny to me. He said that's what the Bigfoots do.
But yeah,
Craig, you probably know Craig.
Something's like in a way, you're right. They could be doing that, but who knows?
Yeah, we just don't know until we actually see them do a click with their tongue or, take a stick and hit it. Who knows? But nonetheless, that's what they do. That's one of their ways they triangulate. That's one way, to know where everybody's at. That we hear the whoops and the tree knocks and all that stuff when we're out there doing our research. And I'm sure you hear plenty around there where you live too. And man, I'm trying to see if we have any more questions tonight, because I know it is getting late over here on the East Coast where you and I live. It is already after midnight. So, man, this has been a wonderful show tonight. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. And I could talk Bigfoot all night, by the way. Okay. You see, talk Bigfoot. We could. We have a wonderful audience tonight too. I want to thank everybody for all these questions and all the comments tonight. It has been awesome. We even had Harley in here tonight. A bunch of people. A lot of my field research friends have been in the chat tonight as well. And so thank everybody for being here tonight. I don't know what you got going on, and what are your future plans? You got plans to get back out in the woods some more, Rob?
Well, just as soon as Tim's elbow heals up a little bit more. George's still battling, trying to pay some kidney stones, and like what me and you talked about off the air earlier. As soon as my eye clears up, I've got some busted blood vessels in my right eye. My depth perception is a little out off right now, but yeah, we intend on going back out in the woods. We've got some cameras over in Franklin, North Carolina that we got to go retrieve and see what we found or what we haven't found. And I think probably by end of July, maybe 1st of August, could possibly come to pass sooner than that. We're going to gather back up with Harley and go back over into East Tennessee.
Oh man, that's a good spot. I can't wait. I want to go back too. Maybe I'll come meet y'all for the day up there sometime. That's a great spot. It's wild. It's you get out there and it's not until you go down into that valley and it's just the whole walk down there. I actually slid on my butt. It was raining. We were out there. I slid down my butt that first hill. I'm not gonna lie, I fell once or twice. I left out of there covered in mud. It was great. I love being covered in mud. I don't mind it. But it was just footprints, the trees. I mean, there were trees that had been tossed up in other trees, X's, asterisks, whatever you want to call those things. It was everything everywhere. And even after I left, the guys had a lot of activity that next night after I left. And it was, I'm not going to say those guys were non-believers that went out there with us, but they became believers that weekend. And it's pretty awesome.
I guarantee if that place don't make a believer out of you, nothing will.
No, exactly. And if you want a Dogman sighting, go to East Tennessee, y'all. I'm going to say East Tennessee is probably going to be the spot to find a Dogman right there. I think that's pretty good. And I think it probably has a lot to do with the cemeteries, maybe just the Appalachian Mountains. I think that's a good marker.
There's one thing that if anybody out there trying to either get into cryptid investigations of any kind, you want to make for sure that you watch yourself. You don't go in the woods unprotected. I wouldn't advise it. Because there's more than just these creatures out there that you have to watch for, depending on the time of year that you go. You've got snakes you got to watch out for. You've got coyotes you got to watch out for. A multitude of other things, and some places you might run into some unsavory people. You may even run into some feral people, and those feral people they're not nice.
Ooh, we talked about the feral people with Jerry actually, and it sounds pretty creepy. And I gotta say, I keep my ear to the street when it comes to the national parks around where I live. And there was just another dead body found in the Talladega National Forest yesterday or this week sometime. So there's bodies found out there. I don't know. I'm not saying it's like a dumping ground for bodies and things like that, but I don't know. I mean, there are people that are living off grid and things like that. There's been couples that have been shot and stuff out there. I mean, you just got to be real careful, but I don't want anybody living in fear, y'all. Don't live in fear. Just live in awareness and keep your head on a swivel.
Exactly.
Rob? Yeah.
Exactly. Just watch yourself and protect yourself at all times. And if you take a notion to do something like this by yourself, make sure somebody knows your whereabouts at all times. That way you could fall, break a leg, or get hurt out there in the woods. And if nobody knows where you're at, you're going to wind up in trouble.
That's right. That's right. Use the buddy system out in the woods, everybody. Okay.
Exactly.
Just let somebody know where you're at. I never go. Well, I'm not going to say I never have been, but I don't go in the deep woods by myself. Okay. And I always have my dog with me, and I always am armed. Okay. I'm going to say I'm usually armed. Okay. Just because, you never know what's going to sneak up behind you. Okay. And,
Yeah,
and I'm talking about
it's not a good idea to go unarmed. I don't care if you've got
right.
pepper spray or whether you carry a firearm. It's for your protection only.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. We had let's see, somebody was just saying they have Northwest Native Tracker says, I have witnessed them hitting it's NW. I just assume it's Northwest. NW Native Tractor. I have witnessed them hitting trees with big sticks. They communicate that way. So they have actually
Awesome.
witnessed them hitting trees. So that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Yeah, it's pretty fantastic, especially being able to see something like that. Very cool. Yeah. I saw that message, Kent. He said, we're just getting started over here on the West Coast. I know. Well, I've been staying up late lately, and it's one of those nights where I probably need to call tonight soon. But thank you so much for being here, Rob. This has been fun. So fun. And where can everybody find NCI? Where do you guys where are your shows located, and your team, and how can people get in touch with you?
Well, our team is basically based out of Western North Carolina, but in order to find us, go to Google Play Store for one, and look for Channel 12 TV Network. You can find us on Roku. You can find us on Apple Play and Comcast. If I'm not bad fool, that's where you can find us at on the internet. And as far as contacting me, you can find me on Instagram at nci.rob, or you can go to TikTok and look for North Carolina Investigates. No, wait a minute. Let me take it back. Hold on. Scratch that. NCI Podcast and Research Team on TikTok. I don't pay no attention to my tags on TikTok. I forgot how I set that up.
My trusted news source.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's how you can find me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Y'all just go look up NCI North Carolina Investigates, and I've tagged you. My moderators have been putting your links in the live chat the whole show. So thank you so much to my moderators out here tonight.
Thank you.
And so people have a way to get in touch with you, and if people have a cryptid encounter or a sighting or something on their property, do you guys go out and y'all go out and investigate, right? Can they get in touch with you to give you reports and stuff?
Absolutely.
In your area? Just in your area, right?
I'll give my personal email address. It's open for anybody. I don't hide nothing. I don't try to sugarcoat anything. What you see is what you get. It's all of it's lowercase letters. It's RGE 2010 at gmail.com. In the subject line, put Bigfoot encounter, paranormal encounter, UFO encounter, whatever the encounter might be, and go ahead and tell me your encounter. And if we got your permission, we'll bring the NCI team out. We'll take a look. We'll see what we can come up with and see what we've got to deal with.
I thought I was putting your email address as a banner, but I put it in the chat. So the chat has your email address, rge2010 at gmail.com. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
2010. Okay, y'all got it. It's right there in the chat. So yeah. Oh, Flat Rock's in here. What's up, Flat Rock? I just saw somebody say, "Hey, Flat Rock." We were just talking about you. Oh, I did want to bring one more thing up before we go tonight, if that's okay. You got like 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes. I was watching something. Somebody had posted something of Thinker Thunker had posted a video today or last night, sometime yesterday maybe. And it was, this is not North Carolina, but this is I think it was Delaware maybe. I don't know if y'all have seen this, but he had these pictures, and it was off somebody else's video, I think, but of this Bigfoot that had babies on its hanging onto its backside. Have you seen this, Rob? This is the picture right here. If you guys get a chance, go over to Thinker Thunker's YouTube channel, Thinker Thunker, and go watch this video. This is what the actual video looks like here. It's Delaware Sasquatch with 2 babies, AI or real deal. He breaks this down, Rob, and he says it's not AI, and he believes it's real. He thinks this is a real picture of a
I will have to go check that out because that's news to me. But
Yeah.
if that is the real deal, that sounds plausible.
That is Thinker Thunker, y'all. I just wanted to bring this up because I thought this was fantastic. I just saw this today, and I'm super excited about it. It looks like he said that it's not AI. According to what he says, he does not believe it's AI or CGI. This was taken back in the 90s. This is a picture from like the 1990s, I think. And he got it off another person's channel. So just to give all them credit, it's Thinker Thunker is who I was watching. But Rob, isn't that fantastic? You know, we've seen
that is wild.
It is wild. It's holding both her butt cheeks, what it looks like. But two little babies. And you know, we have seen there have been videos like, what is that? The Independence Day footage, I think, is of the mama Sasquatch carrying the baby over the boulder field, maybe. I think that's the one.
Yep. That's what that reminded me of right there.
Yeah. There's plenty of videos of mama Bigfoots carrying their babies, y'all. Okay. And Poncho said, "Can I pet that Bigfoot baby? Can I pet that dog?" Yes. Oh, that would be a good remote viewing target. It would be. That would be a good one. Maybe I could send that to my team. Don't tell anybody. Okay. We might send that to the team. Yeah. That's pretty cool. M13 says that's about that possum life. Yeah. Baby possums do hold on to their mamas. They do. They ride their mamas like that. They do. But I just thought it'd be cool to kind of show that tonight and bring that to everybody's attention. Yes. Y'all go over to Thinker Thunker tonight or tomorrow, whenever you can, and check out the baby Bigfoots holding on to mama's butt cheeks. Okay. I don't think that's the official name. Oh man. That is too funny. All right, y'all. Well, Rob, thanks again for being here tonight. Please come back and hang out with me again soon. Okay.
Anytime.
You're a hoot. I really enjoyed it. Okay. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And yes, and I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank you to all my moderators. Oh, Jamie, I didn't see that. Thank you, Jamie, for that super sticker. She said, much love to Jessica, Rob, and mods, and love to everybody. Oh. Thank you, Jamie. I missed that earlier. I'm so sorry, y'all. And Colleen, thank you for becoming a member of the Hunt Club too. I appreciate you. That is so awesome. I do have exclusive content for the Hunt Club. It's my YouTube membership if you guys want to join that too. So thank you, Colleen. And thank you to everybody who was here. Thank you to all the mods for being so cool tonight. So awesome. And for helping me out. I do appreciate y'all. Come back and see me on Monday. I'll be back at 1 p.m. Eastern live. Okay, y'all. Rob, have a great night. Tell all the guys at NCI I said what's up. And we'll see you next time. Okay, y'all.
All right. See you too.
Y'all, everybody stay safe out there. Don't live in fear. Keep your head on a swivel. All right. We'll see you on Monday. All right. Bye, y'all.